Mrs. McKnight's class and anybody else who's joining us. I was able to call most of you who are in my class in the last couple of days. And it seems like most of you are working really hard at trying to remember that we're doing schoolwork and then we're also having kind of a weekend at-home experience. And it's kind of cool. It's different than anything I've experienced in my life, probably different than any of your parents have experienced, even any of my parents. We've never had this much school called off, kind of like a snow day right in the middle of a school year. So you have to make sure you keep on reading. Okay, that's very, very important because you've worked so hard to get here, and lots of you are doing that. But I'm glad that lots of you are doing other things also. Avery, your story about how you and your sister are using your imagination and pretending you're different animals, like cougars or wolves, and playing outside, that's awesome. That's very important too. And Felix, all that basketball you've been playing, that's going to help keep your body healthy. Tristan, I did receive those math problems you did. Your mom texted me, so thank you for that. Zeta, I know you started things right away. You were, as soon as I knew school was canceled, your mom wanted to know what to help you with and what to do with you. So that's wonderful. And I hope you guys all got my email about the different programs that we're using. I thought of a poem for today, and it's not from the same poem book that we've been reading. This is a Shel Silverstein poem, and it was one of my very favorites. I used to have it memorized. I don't have it memorized anymore, but it's one of those ones that I would come back to. And I kind of think it applies to us right now because it's kind of like we're having a sick day, but we're still feeling okay. So with that, by Shel Silverstein, here's the poem, Sick. I cannot go to school today, said little Peggy Ann McKay. I have the measles and the mumps, a gash, a rash, and purple bumps. My mouth is wet. My throat is dry. I'm glowing blind in my right eye. My tonsils are as big as rocks. I've counted 16 chicken pox, and there's one more. That's 17. And don't you think my face looks green? My leg is cut. My eyes are blue. It must be instamatic flu. I cough and sneeze, and gasp and choke. I'm sure that my left leg is broke. My hip hurts when I move my chin. Ow! My belly button's caving in. My back is wrenched. My ankle's sprained. My appendix pains each time it rains. My nose is cold. My toes are numb. I have a sliver in my thumb. My neck is stiff. My voice is weak. Right? Weak? I hardly whisper when I speak. My tongue is filling up my mouth. I think my hair is falling out. My elbows bent. My spine ain't straight. My temperature's 108. My brain is shrunk. I cannot hear. There's a hole inside my ear. I have a hangnail and my heart is... What? What's that you say? You say today is Saturday? Well, goodbye. I'm going out to play. As you can tell, I've had this book for a long time too. I brought it to school, put a level Q on it. I'm not sure really what level it is. But you can see how the pages are even coming out of this one. Because it's been read a lot and loved a lot. That was a poem that I did in a performance when I was, I think, in 5th or 6th grade. So that's the reason that one's still sort of stuck in my mind. It was a really fun poem to show you guys. I also want to practice just a little bit of math today before we jump into our Dick and Dolly. And for the kids in my class, I know you're used to seeing this a lot. The kids who are not in my class, I want to do a little bit to get for you familiar with this. So look here. How many red do you see? You can whisper count. How many? Yeah, there's 5 there. And you can kind of see that it's 5 because we have 2 and 2, like 4 right there, and then we have a middle guy, and 5 always has a middle. So then there's 5 white as well. So when we put the 5 and 5 together, we have, 10, just like our fingers, 5 and 10. So what we're going to use this for today is we're just going to practice making 10. we're going to look at the different combinations that go together to make 10, and then we're going to read our story, okay? So let's do this first one. Get a pencil. How many's here? 5, and 5 make 10. Now we have, let's zip the 5, and then count on. Ready? 5, 6. So there's 6 over there. How many do we have over here? 4. 6 and 4 make 10. It's kind of like 5 and 5, but this guy left. All right, let's look at this. Here, let's zip the 5 and count on again, even if you already know it. Ready? 5, 6, 7. So we have 7 and 3. Our brains can count 3 even without going 1, 2, 3. 3 is a nice little number like that. So if I put another one over, now we have 5, 6, 7, 8, and 2. And all these can be made on your fingers. 5 and 5. We can do 6 and 4. We could do our 7 and 3. 7 and 3 are always 10. And 8, let me make this 8 and 2. That's the one we're on right now. 8 and 2. 9 goes with 1. And then 10 goes with 0. 10 and 0 also make 10. Next time I'll be covering up one of the sides and we can try to remember those. Just a little bit of review before we get started in our story. Now, while I've been here at home, we managed to find the original Dick and Dolly book that I had, that my mother read to me when I was young. Look, doesn't that look like it's pretty rough? See how the top's fringed? The pages are very worn. This is a 2009, and then the Dick and Dolly Adventures came out in 2010. You can tell the one that I've been reading more when I was growing up. This one that looks really, really old. This one looks almost brand new. And I think I have another one on the Dick and Dolly's Adventures. So here is that scene of Dick and Dolly jumping out of the window onto that flower bed. And that is what they have to apologize for today. That making a huge mess out of the beds that Michael made and that Aunt Rachel planned. One last thing before we dive into the story. I know some of you have said, why do they have to apologize? They weren't trying to be mean. They just weren't thinking about it. They didn't mean to hurt the flower bed. And I'm going to kind of remind you about what an apology should look like. So I need Mr. McKnight to come be my helper on this part. Okay. You don't have to be facing the camera or anything. Okay. So if Mr. McKnight, now I'm going to do it on purpose, but if this was an accident and I really didn't mean to, this is what the apology would look like. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you okay? I'm sorry, I wasn't paying any attention. That's so embarrassing. Are you okay? Yes. Are you okay? Yes. Okay. There was like 10 apologies in there. Just, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm sorry. Are you okay? That shows him that I didn't mean to. I'm still showing that I care because it's still my responsibility to take care of where my body is. So thanks, Mr. McKnight. So when we left Dick and Dolly, they just trashed the flower bed and they just got reprimanded by Michael the gardener. And they still have to face their 2 aunts that they're living with. Their Aunt Rachel and their Aunt Abby. Aunt Rachel and Aunt Abby. So the aunts are about to come home and we're starting chapter 2 called A Supper Party. After putting the library in order, Dick and Dolly dressed themselves neatly for supper and then set out on the veranda waiting for their aunts to come home. Now the veranda is like a front porch, except it's right on the level, so it's the same level as their house. But they live in this very large kind of mansion house, and it is shaded, so that's the veranda. They're waiting on the veranda. The carriage reached the steps of the veranda, and Miss Rachel and Miss Abby stepped out and came to where the children were sitting. "Here you are, twinsies," called Aunt Rachel, "and I'm glad to see you're all neatly dressed and sitting here waiting for us. As a reward, I have a nice little surprise for you. Stay here until we take off our bonnets, and then we will tell you all about it." I don't think they realize that Dick and Dolly have something to apologize for. Dick and Dolly obeyed, and the four then started to walk across the lawn towards the children's playground. Before they reached it, they could see Chinese lanterns hanging from the trees and nestling in the hedge. And nestling in the hedge. So Chinese lanterns are those paper lanterns that used to have candles in them. Now sometimes they have other lights, but they're usually like yellow and red and orange. So picture those between this mansion and this playground that the children have, and that's where they're going to go eat. The table was set up in the arbor, one of those covered things you sometimes see in parks. The table was set up in the arbor, and it was just about the nicest supper the cook could concoct. Whoa! It was just about the nicest supper the cook could concoct. Light biscuits, fried chicken, marmalade, that's like jelly, tiny little sandwiches, and they were all there on the table, while on a smaller table nearby stood a great glass bowl of strawberries and a bowl of whipped cream. "All my favorite things to eat," exclaimed Dolly. "And all out here in the arbor. Oh, what a lovely party. I do think, Aunt Rachel and Aunt Abby, you are the kindest ladies in the world." And then, remembering of their naughtiness that afternoon, memories of it flashed into Dolly's mind, and tears started to well up, and she realized how grieved the aunts would be once they learned of it. The same thought came to Dick's mind at the same time, and he knew he could not eat a mouthful of the beautiful feast until he had somehow removed the heavy load from his heart and confessed to his aunts. "Sit down, children," said Aunt Rachel, and she seated herself. "I hope you are hungry enough to do justice to our first outdoor supper of the year. And it is the first, but if we enjoy it, we can repeat this performance as often as we'd like." Well, that sounds lovely, doesn't it? Eating outside in that early part of June. "Auntie Rachel," Dick said, desperately determined not to waste any more time, "I can't eat my supper until I tell you something." Well, it must be very important news, well, mustn't it, my boy? Well, out with it." "We've been very naughty this afternoon," said Dick, his little round face looking miserably repentant. "At least I was." "Oh, I was too," put in Dolly promptly. "I was just as bad as Dick, only he thinks he was worse because he began it." "What did you do?" asked Auntie Rachel gravely. She began to realize from the children's expression that it was a pretty big bit of mischief this time. "I hope it's not anything bad," said Auntie Abby, "for I don't want to spoil this tea party with any unpleasantries." "It was bad," said Dick. "It was awful bad, and we're just as sorry as we can be. But you said so yourself, Aunt Rachel, that being sorry doesn't do much. That it's the bigger problem. That it's there's some words that are broken up there. I'll try that again. That is better to promise not to do the naughty thing again. Well, we can promise that easy enough. Of course we'll never do it again, but that doesn't help what we did do." "Well, what did you do?" asked Miss Rachel a little impatiently, for she regarded especially this enforced delay of their pretty supper party she had planned. "Well, you see, we were playing ship." And the library was the ship," put in Dolly. "And we had an awful shipwreck. And Pinky and Jack were there, and they shipwrecked with us too." "Not so dreadful so far," commented Aunt Abby. "But I suppose you broke something. Some vase, or you spilled some ink in the library with your wild carrying on?" "Oh no," said Dick, "not that." We didn't hurt a thing in the library. We put it all in order after the game was over. But, Aunt Rachel, when the ship hit a rock, we all jumped into the ocean to keep from being drowned. And you see, somehow or other, the ocean happened to be your flower bed. That big one under the library window. My pattern bed? Exclaimed Aunt Rachel. And you children jumped into it? Why, it had just begun to be seated. You must have ruined it. Yes, ma'am, Dick said plaintively. We sure did. You did. Aunt Rachel was thoroughly aroused now, and for that particular bed was her great pride. Dick, I am surprised at you. You mean you deliberately jumped into that flower bed? No, Dick said. It was mischief. It was naughty, and it was all my fault. But truly, truly, Aunt Rachel, it wasn't deliberate. Do you guys see how that was kind of similar to what I did with Mr. McKnight? Okay, he says, it was mischief, and it was naughty, and it was all my fault. But truly, truly, it wasn't deliberate. I think that was a pretty good apology, and I don't think apologies are easy to do. He did a good one. Dick's honest, straightforward eyes gazed into his aunt's face as he admitted his wrongdoing. But he would not admit that he willfully planned the act. I know, Dick, she said. You didn't actually think to yourself, now I'm going to jump in Aunt Rachel's flower bed on purpose to displease her. I know you didn't think that, but you were so thoughtless of what was right and so heedless of my property that it is almost as bad. The whole company sat quietly. Aren't you going to punish us, Auntie? Asked Dick. Seems if I'd feel more square about it if you gave me a great big punishment. Either us, or at least me, I was worse than Dollums. Shall I go to bed without my supper? His aunt pursed her lips. You were very bad, but this is such a lovely supper. Let's forget all of this until tomorrow. I'll be at a better mind to think about it and talk to you about it then. How do you think he did? It was kind of hard. That was a hard apology. I like how Dolly said it was also her and how Dick took that responsibility. Okay, now it's one of our favorite times. It is time to break into a book review. This time we're going to be hearing from Landon about a book that he really enjoyed.
Hello, and my name is Landon, and I'm going to be reviewing this book called Press Start Super Rabbit Boy vs. Super Rabbit Boss. The Super Rabbit Boss doesn't look like this, but I'll actually show you. There's him, and that's Super Rabbit Boy. This white one. He's like dark. And so, the big problem in this book is that this mean Viking guy kidnaps his friend, Singing Dog. Singing Dog is a dog that sings a lot. It's in his name, kind of. And so, he goes to find, will he be found by the Super Rabbit Boy, or he'll be kept? We don't know yet, but I'm reading this book really closely, and I'm learning. In this book, it is very good because there's a lot of characters, and these robots are nice. And it's all backwards when they go in this pipe.
Where can they go to find out more information?
Oh, at Mrs. McKnight's class.
Thank you, Landon.
If you don't want to know what school it is at, it's in Riverton, Wyoming, Ash Grove Elementary.
Thank you, Landon. That sounds like a wonderful book. Please keep reading, keep pretending, keep enjoying this very strange time. And I will talk to you kids tomorrow. Goodbye.